Let's relax our bodies, turn loose to the day, bring our full attention to this moment and to this place. Let us lift our thoughts to a very high level and think of the beings of light reaching down as we reach upward. Good evening, my dear ones. This is Godson, your doorkeeper from this side of the veil. It is a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you in your circle of light. And I would have you to know that there are many from this side of the veil that are attending your services tonight. This is a good group and a good vibration, and let us lift our thoughts very high to encompass a higher thought tonight, for we are going to speak to you of something that you may not have considered or thought that much about. Let us think of the title of this class as Sons of God. And to begin with, I would have you ladies to realize that when we use the term Sons of God, it entails both genders. You indeed are all sons of God. And as you departed from your Father's house by taking a thought separate from your Father, then you dropped yourself out of the Garden of Eden, or the Godhead, whatever terminology you want to use. And as you dropped down, you took on the concept of duality. Now, this happened over many, many centuries of your time, eons, you might say, and you have come down to the lowest point, and you are now on your way back to the Godhead. There is some time yet for you to get there, and some realizations for you to realize to bring you in to the full as a full realized Son of God. We cannot speak about this without bringing in the concept of duality, because this is the thing that separated you from your realization of your godhood, your realization of your sonship with the Father of all creation. And as you lowered down to the lower dimensions, step by step, through many, many dimensions, you have many different experiences on each one of these dimensions. Experiences that your physical mind would not recognize at this time. But as you move upward and raise your consciousness, you will recognize these higher dimensions and be able to relate to them. Your next step is to overcome this physical plane. And this message tonight is to drive home to you the realization that you are sons of God, that you are children of the Most High God, the Creator of all that is. And you need to realize this and know it. I would say to you, my dear ones, that you do not yet know it. You may know about it. You may know the terminology, but if you knew it, you would be demonstrating it in your every thought, word, and deed. you are moving toward this higher understanding a little at a time. And as you move upward, your knowing becomes greater. As you raise your consciousness, you bring in to your consciousness more light, divine light. And when you bring this light in, the understanding comes with it. Let us go back to the time that you came out of the Garden of Eden, the Godhead, and at first you were formless. In the first few dimensions, you had no form. And as you dropped down lower, you took on form. And this body that you now manifest in was created for you when you came to the physical level. But there are many other bodies that you manifested in on other dimensions. Now, let us think of the physical body, that you have 2 arms, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 legs, and some of your organs are just 1. But this is involved with the concept of duality. Your 2 eyes and 2 ears see from the physical plane of illusion and hear from the physical plane of facts, physical facts, not truth as it is in its entirety. As you understand this and relate to it, then you can raise your consciousness to a place where you will be able to realize your divinity, and you will be able to see with the inner eye and hear with the inner ear, even while you are in the physical. Let us pause for a moment and think of sending love into this contact, and think of this circle of light as getting brighter and brighter. Let us relax and be at peace, and allow yourself to raise your consciousness to a very high level. Think of your invisible friends that are near you and sending you love, and you're sending love back to them. And this is building up the vibrations in this room to a very high level. Know that the Master is standing in the center of your circle, and he is lending his love and his vibrations of peace and joy to this contact and to each individual here, both in the physical and the spirit. Many come from the realms just above yours to experience the higher beings of light and to experience the Master when he comes to your circle. And they come also to learn. As you tune in to each other and to the ones in the invisible, think of it as one. Think of the Master vibration going out and touching you each, touching you with his love and his light of understanding, as we bring you this message called Sons of God. The Master is one of you. He is not ahead of you. He has gone a head end sense by realizing his sonship with God and knowing that he and the Father are one, and he is with you at all times in consciousness. And as you realize this, and realize that your teachers are one with you in consciousness at all times, reach out for their help. Reach out by talking to them and asking for help and sending love to them and being open for their understanding that they can give you when you ask for it. Now, as we came down and took on these different forms, these different bodies on each dimension, the lower dimensions, we took on different understandings. Each dimension, my dear ones, has its own law. For example, your dimension, the physical dimension, has the law of gravity. Now, this law does not apply to any of the other dimensions, but each dimension has its own laws. And so as you came down to each dimension, you learned things on that dimension, and you created the dwelling places, the places of understanding, the vibrations, and as the vibrations became lower and lower, you began to forget who you truly are. And as you descended to the physical plane, then most of you shut off your understanding of your sonship with God. It is important that you understand this and that you realize that you are sons of God, that you are one with God at all times. There has never really been any separation. Only in your thoughts has there been a separation. You took the first thought separate from God when you left the Father's house, and we could say the Father's consciousness. And you really did not leave the Father's consciousness, but you took on with your free will, your independence to think on your own. It is a little difficult with your language to explain this, but you took your first thought separate from God, and then another thought, and another. And as you experienced this, it was a different experience, and you wanted to know what it was like. And so you were on a different plane than in the Godhead. And then you wanted to know what it would be like to be on another plane, and so on. And your curiosity, we might say, and your wanting to learn and to understand has brought you to where you are now. Now, let us remember that in true reality there is no duality. There is no good or evil, and it was not a fall from grace. It was a choice that you made, a choice to learn and to grow in a different way than where you were in the Godhead. As you move upward and ascend toward the Godhead, toward your oneness with God, it is good to remember who you truly are as you go through your days on this physical plane. When you are in the world and doing a job or whatever you do, remember who you truly are. This is very important. When you spend several hours concentrating on just physical matter without remembering that you are a son of God, that you are one with God, without sending God's love, you have made a break in the circuit, you might say, and then you have to come back to your remembering who you are. There are times when you go several hours without remembering this, and I would have you to consider taking the opportunity to not let an hour go by in your day that you do not remember that you are a son of God, and to send God's love, unlabeled or wherever you would send it. I want to give you a demonstration this evening and to help you to understand something. In India and other parts of the Orient, when watch Donald's hands, when the hands come together like this, when you meet someone and you bow to them, I would have you to realize that you're bringing the two hands together as one. Instead of two, you are making them one. And this is in essence saying, I am one with you, and I am one with God and one with life. Now, I would have you to relax your hands as Donald's are on your thighs and just a little ways apart, maybe 2 or 3 inches. And I want you to let the energy flow from one hand to the other. And I want you to feel this. As you relax enough and allow this flow to go from one hand to the other, you will feel a tingling, a warmth, a vibration. Let this build up a little stronger. Now, everyone who is feeling this vibration, I would like you to respond with saying yes. Yeah, it's like, yes, so you're feeling this vibration between your two hands. Now, let them be comfortable and think of the technique that we use by breathing and bringing in the energy through the hands, up the arms, to the head, the higher glands, and then on the out-breath, all the way through your body and your feet. And while you are holding your hands here and have this energy and vitality going as one, let us use that exercise. All right? Inhale. Bringing the light up to your head, then out, exhale, let it go through all your body and out your feet. Now try this 3 or 4 times, and as you try it, let's bring this energy feeling that you feel going between your hands. Let us try to bring it up your arms into your shoulders and into your head. This will take a little practice for most. And then when you breathe out, feel it going through your whole body and out your feet. Now I want you to consider practicing this at home and bringing your two hands together to bring the life force and energy in. When you do this, my dear ones, you are multiplying the life force. And you see you're bringing the two into one. And the one is much, much more powerful than two in a spiritual sense. Because in true reality, there's only one life. There's only one consciousness. There's only one mind. You and I are different expressions of this one life, this consciousness, this mind. And so as we realize this, and as you understand that by bringing the two into one and making the connection, that you are building the power within you, you're bringing it forth in greater abundance. And when you feel down, or when you have an ailment or something, practice this technique. And you can take the white light at first, or just pure light, and then you can practice with the purple, the healing power, and the blue is the calming, blue and green. The green is balance, and so on. And red is for energy. I would be cautious about the red at times because it increases wherever you are. If you feel down and not so good, do not use the red because it increases wherever you are. This is something that you can work with and that will help you to understand and to realize your kinship with all life, that you are sons of God. Are there questions this evening? Speak louder, please.
Possible to invite the people that you love that are dead to come to these meetings over on the other side. And if we could make a list of the ones so that the ones we love, well, they all should come, but some of them, you want them awful bad. And I wonder if I could just invite them to your meeting. Could that be possible? Would it be possible?
Oh, just your desire, my dear one, is an invitation. And when you think of them and you think of the meetings, if they are still discarnate, they will come. There may be occasions when they are involved in other things and that they cannot break away from. But on this side, we are not so involved with time and space. And most of the time, when you invite someone to these meetings, you can be sure that they are here if they are still discarnate.
Thank
you. Yes. Are there other questions this evening?
Yes, what is green valence?
The color green Cricket, is means having balance in your life. When you are tired, or then you don't have energy, do you? And when you are out of balance, maybe your thinking isn't quite as it should be. Balance is one of the most important things while you're on the physical plane. When people work all the time, they're out of balance. If they play all the time, they're out of balance. It should be a balance between work and recreation, between social life and your spiritual growth, and so on. So when you feel out of balance, when you feel not at one with yourself, then you can use the color green and let it bring you back. And it is a calming color, as blue is, and it helps you to have a balance. If you will think for a moment, all of nature is green. And so it is a very powerful color. This center is surrounded with shrubbery of green, and this is one reason it was chosen for the center, because of so much life force emanating from the shrubbery and from the trees and from the grass. Life is everywhere present, and when you can understand, then you can use the different colors and different things and different ways to bring yourself back to yourself so that you can have a more abundant life. And green is also the color of abundance. Does this help your understanding, Cricket?
Yes, thank you.
Are there other questions this evening? As you go through your days and as you move into a higher state of consciousness, using the things that have been given to you, using the light of understanding that has been given to you, then more light will be added to you. But when you do not use the things that are given to you, then they are diminished. And we would encourage you to use these little things that we give you to bring about better harmony within yourself, better balance, bring about abundance within your thinking and in your life, and especially to bring love into your life. When you think of light, then you are tuning in to the energy of all the universe. Everything is made out of particles of light, and also this could be called energy. The particles of light that make up the matter in your created universe are energy from the uncreated universe. As you were in the Godhead, you were formless. You had no form, but you were an individual expression of life. And as you come down through the several planes, then you took on created universe, and the duality concept brought about the creation of life on the lower dimensions. And when we say lower this time, we mean a few planes below the Godhead. you took on creation. Duality creates the created universe. And when you give up this concept of duality, which will be sometime in your future, then you will go back to the uncreated universe, and you will go back to the oneness, the complete oneness with God that you already are now, but you will know it. And the one thing that comes to mind is, again, the analogy that I've given you. When you take a drop of water from the ocean, it seems to be separate. But when you put it back in the ocean, then it is one with the whole ocean. And in your thoughts, my dear ones, you have separated yourself as you would a drop of water from the ocean of consciousness of God, and decided to think for yourself, using your individuality. Now, in a long, long span of what you think of as time, this will bring about your ability to manifest as gods. And we maybe should leave it there and not get too far into this concept. Are there other questions this evening? Some have asked, why should we come out of the Godhead when everything is so beautiful and perfect and whole and complete? And it is, my dear ones, so that you can experience in the lower dimensions, with your choice of free will. When you are in the Godhead, you have given your will back to God. And when you come out of the Godhead, then you are using the freedom of your will. You can also give this will back to God even while you are in these lower dimensions, and allow God to manifest through you. But it is very difficult because you have formed patterns of thinking for yourself, making choices for yourself. And this is what I mean when I say that the different cycles as you come out of the Godhead and go back will eventually bring you in to a God in your own right, and the knowing will be complete. This was not intended to come into this lesson, but it slipped in here somehow, and it is a part of the understanding of the reason for ascending or descending from the Godhead and then ascending back, is the experience of choosing, of making your individual thoughts, making what you call mistakes and then correcting them until you get to the place where whatever you think is immediately manifested, and you do not create anything destructive. Are there other questions this evening?
How does one deal with the concept you just ended there or just mentioned? How does one deal with the patience of waiting for things to manifest? Once you decide you want a certain something to happen.
Yes. You see, my dear one, you are the one that creates whatever you want. And if you are impatient because you have not learned to create this, then you're standing in the way of your own progress. It is wise when you want to create some condition in your life or a level of consciousness that you go within to the inner self of you where God dwells and ask for this wisdom and information, and then use this to create whatever you want. Now, some may say, I have not learned to do this yet. Then it is time that you practice learning to go within and make the contact with the God within you, the God self of you that you truly are, where you have access to all knowledge, all wisdom, all power, and all ability. This is within you. But by being impatient because you have not learned to do this or have not learned to manifest something will not bring it about. It will delay your progress. Does this help your understanding?
Yes, it does. But I'd like to add one other question to that. In retrospect, where does one, for lack of better words, draw the line between wanting to manifest something for yourself using your own will, opposed to following the will once you've given it back to God and letting that allow, letting God's power to allow the right things to happen in your life instead of thinking that you have to make that individual choice yourself?
You see, my dear one, you are saying there are two powers. There's only one power in the whole universe. There is only one power. And you use this power in a way of confusion and destruction or a way of wisdom and creativity. You do not think of yourself as separate from God. This is what the impression that you got across. You see, you are never separate from God. Now, when you do not understand something and your little self may get in the way of making contact with the God within you to get the understanding, then you may do things from the little self point of view that are not wise. And so you create what you call karma. And this stands in your way for a time until you learn to know the truth that you are indeed God's and that God is the life force that you are. And with this realization, you go within and listen. When you make contact with the God within you, you do not talk. You listen. And if you are open with the inner ear, you will hear the answer. And if the answer does not come, it is because you are not listening. This may sound confusing to you, but it is the truth. And you will learn to listen. But you see, with impatience, you are not listening. You are just being impatient as a spoiled child and saying, I want it now, and not being willing to do the things to bring it into manifestation. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
If we turn our will over to God right now and just be quiet, He just lets everything good come our way, does He not? It seems like one thing after another will come that way. We find out, we learn by accident that He works that way, do not we not?
We learn by understanding that God is the life and the only life there is. And I would repeat this again. When you make statements like this, you are thinking of two powers, two life forces. There is only one life force. Now, God has given you the individual expression of Himself, but you are still one with Him. And the power that you have is His power. That is the only power there is. And when you set aside your choice and your will, then the full power of God can manifest through you, and you can bring about creation of what you want. But when you distort the creative force with negative, fearful thoughts, then you see you create something that is not what you want, that is distorted. Yes, and what you said, my dear one, when you release yourself to God, then He can manifest through you and bring about whatever you want in your life. But you do have free will while you are out of the Godhead, and you do have to use your choice by asking for what you want, and then releasing it to the universal power of God, and not getting in the way of the flow of creation. Then it can be manifested as you would have it be. Does this help your understanding?
You find very much unexpected things coming that you never even dreamed of.
But these are things that you have created. Maybe you were not conscious of them, but you have brought them about in your life.
I've got to be careful from putting a positive view and then putting a negative on the end of it. It seems as that's the pattern that we run over, and you're reprogramming your life negatively on that last half.
Yes. So many times we cancel out our good with doubt, worry, or concern about whether we can do this or whether we are worthy of it or deserve it. And it may not be a thought, a full thought with words. It may just be a feeling. And so, but it does interfere with the process of creating your good. Yes. Are there other questions this evening?
How do we learn to go within and to make contact with the God within ourselves?
By realizing that you are never out of contact with God. This is the first place to begin. You cannot ever be separated from God, my dear one, or you would not exist. Your existence is the life force that God is. And so you do not have to strain to do anything. You need to just turn off the physical world and your thoughts about the physical world or your problems, and go within and be patient and ask for the awareness of God's presence and His love or whatever that you desire and listen. It will at times come to you in forms of language and words, and other times it will come to you as an impression, a faint impression, and a knowing. Most of the time, it comes not directly in language, but in a knowing. Also, I would have you to understand that sometimes when you go within to make contact with your Heavenly Father, that you may not realize that you have the contact. And then later, when you are doing something in the physical, the understanding will come to you, will pop in your mind, as you might say, and you will have, what is a common word, flash, and this realization will be there. So be patient with yourself. But the first thing is to realize that you're never separate from God, and that God is always there because you could not exist without Him. Does this help your understanding? Yes. Are there other questions this evening? It is a beautiful time for us to come together and to have these, as one of your presidents said, a fireside chat, and to have this circle of light that brings about a contact from our dimension to your dimension. My dear ones, you should realize how fortunate you are, for so many do not believe such a thing possible and would not even consider it. But you have this ability, and you have grown to the place in consciousness where you do understand, and also you do not have to wait until Wednesday nights to make contact. As I have said, set aside some time each day just to be still and go within and have communion with God. You don't have to have a reason to do it, just to be with God in your consciousness, to turn off the outer world and feel His presence, feel His love for you, feel the light of understanding that He is within you, and know that the life force flowing through you is God, the Creator of all that is. God bless you, my dear ones, and good evening. Shall we stand and hold hands? By the state of ourselves coming together in the physical as we have been His Spirit, and bringing the spiritual love and light and understanding all the way through to the physical by holding hands and feeling the presence of God within each of us, and feeling God's love flowing around this circle in great abundance, multiplying many times, building up in momentum, gulling this road, and spreading out over this city, and covering this planet. I think of God's love flowing to all the troubled spots of the world, to all the world leaders, to all those involved with the world leaders,
unexpected thoughts flock quite ahead of us into this week, into our every thought, word, and deed, and every situation and every encounter. And let us remember the circle of light as we go through our week, and we'll place ourselves in thoughts in the circle of light to draw on the power that is here at all times. Thank you, Father.
I mean, a couple of those to me.
True.
Like a free with favorite
That's true.
in